was glad that he didn't. I'm going, oh, listen, I made money on it because,
You doing all right, eh?
it just drives me crazy. So then the next guy throwing, and he makes two numbers. I'm sitting and about the time I said that, he sat down. So then I quit thinking about myself super fire, but I just kept, every time it was like automatic.
It's Brian.
Hey,
All right, Cletus?
let's get this show on the road.
Tear into them, Bob.
The first thing on the agenda is the mayor had told us to come up with a list of streets that need to be paved. I worked with Rick and Eddie and Chris Lawson on the list. In fact, Rick did the list basically himself, but we put a lot of things together. This list includes streets that are immediate from the 1 to 5. Here we also have a list of streets 5 to 10, but the calculations we did, Rick, are from 1 to 5.
Correct.
Right. And I'll have Rick tell you how he calculated these figures, but if you go to we might as well just go to the third and last page, it does have a total of those streets. In the 1.5 a year, yes, over $7 million. And that does include replacing all curbs in Southgate. I think we included all curbs in Southgate. Curbs on Clarence Drive, curbs in Greenbrier.
All of them.
All those, which adds up to the cost of all these.
Yeah.
Southgate, we know, has been here since '65, somewhere in there, so that they haven't been done in 50 years. Some of them, there's hardly any curbs at all. Sometimes we have, for whatever reason, paved over the gutters in Southgate, probably because the gutters are bad, and they paved asphalt over top of them. So there's a lot of some bad curbs in the city of Heath that I think over time we need to replace when we do the paving. So we compiled this list, and I'll have Rick just tell you exactly kind of how they came up with these figures.
Well, first of all, we went to the recently bid street projects, those to be bid, and we combined the engineers' pricing that they had and compared that against what the contractors had submitted on the pricing, and then we came up with a mean average. So all the estimating in here is basically done using that method of 2016 funds. Now, obviously, none of this work will be done in 2016. So I got a hold of ODOT, and on this front page here, we have their out-year multiplier list for how prices should increase year by year out 5 years. We began using an old street list that had the width and lengths of the streets, but in checking those against our very up-to-date GIS information, we found some that to be pretty inaccurate. Others were too far off.
Rick, can I ask a
Yeah.
question? But this figure on the front here, the 3.6, and then another 7.6, or is that 4
Okay,
point?
I'll give you an example. Anything that you would look at to put in work for next year, you have funding in place. You would take the numbers for those individual projects and increase them by 3.6% for inflation from this year to next. Anything that would be left on this list after that year, in 2018 work, you would multiply times 7.6%.
Okay, so you take the 2016 price and multiply it by whatever it is based on the year in which you would think it'd be done.
Correct.
These aren't compounding on themselves.
Oh, no, not on themselves.
Okay,
no.
that's what you were getting at, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it's used. We also did not have numbers in here for any kind of contingency funds. Normally, you start out a project before you design it on your initial numbers, and might use about 20% as a contingency for the unknowns. By the time you go to bid, typically that should be decreased down to about 10%. And still, once when you're especially plating asphalt, you get these surprises when you get down to what you considered design depth and sometimes isn't stable, so that 10% hopefully picks up that number. The calculations do include engineering fees. We used a mean average of 10% for the engineering fees. Now, on small projects, that would probably not be adequate. On large projects, it's going to be greater than, so it should average out. We also included in the construction cost the performance bond expenses of the contractors. So we've got, we believe, all-inclusive numbers for the basic work. All paving in here consists of planing 1.5 inches of existing asphalt, reworking it, and putting 1.5 inches down. Now, there's some streets, Cynthia, for instance, would be one, because of the increased bus traffic, that we may have to plane 2 inches and put 2 inches back there. There's also a couple of streets, and I'll tell you one, it's gonna be an expensive one, no matter how we look at it, is, Clarence. And I talked with ODOT about that today, their materials engineer, and that has a concrete base that has approximately 4 to 5 inches of asphalt over top of it. That's another one where the asphalt's been paved over the compound curb and gutter. ODOT is basically, their recommendation, of course, we work with state money, is to basically plane all the asphalt and then take up all the concrete, turn it for all that, and reuse it.
Oh. So Clarence is similar to what Wedgewood was.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why would we do that?
Well, the
I
problem
haven't-
is the bumps we're getting on Clarence Drive now, they haven't surfaced on. You know, when we did Clarence Drive, it was a little bit of a gamble. The residents were starting to complain how bad the street was, and we decided to go ahead and pave it. In the past, we were kind of worried, we were worried to pave it because we didn't know what was gonna happen, or what we were gonna find. Well, when we did pave it, we did plane down some, and then we put, the same, called Sammy on top of it, and then we were supposed to seal the concrete more so the water couldn't get in there, and then we did pave over top of it. Now, recently, if you've been down Clarence, it's a bump, almost all the way down there. So we're experiencing problems with that, and then, of course, we didn't replace the curbs when we paved there because we didn't have the money. And the curbs are deteriorating down there, so.
Some of them you can't even see.
Right, so because of these bumps that are coming up, it's gotta be water getting in down into concrete and racing up. If you want a total fix of it, then you probably have to do what Rick is saying, what ODOT has suggested. But those same things have not happened in Wedgewood.
What would be the cost?
Oh, I didn't look into it. I didn't get a call back from them until this afternoon, but for them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Total cost is here $357. Clarence Drive.
Pardon?
Total cost for Clarence Drive is $357.
Yeah, but that's not replacing, that's not
just-
taking.
That's not
You
really
know, that's what I was talking about before,
concrete.
just playing it 1.5 inches, putting 1.5 inches down and replacing the curb.
That's just to do it as is.
Yeah. That's why I say, we made this list based upon some basic approaches to how we go about it. Now, what we're getting now is the feedback afterwards for how those numbers may change, and in most cases, how they might increase rather than decrease.
We are looking at roads lasting 10 years maybe at average now, where we were getting maybe 20 before. I think Jobs has said that most roads should last 15, but in some areas we're seeing that doesn't happen anymore. But some roads might last, but some haven't. So we have to assume that some of these roads have to be paved pretty quickly, even if we have paved them 5 or less than 10 years ago. Also, with our money that we receive from the county for our license plate tax money, we receive approximately $200,000 a year.
Oh, you're right.
So if we had a 5-year plan of $200,000 a year, that we would only be able to spend $1 million on projects that we see could cost over $7 million. So we will never ever catch up. I mean, even if we have an income tax increase, we won't catch up in 5 years, but it will get us going in the right direction. Where if we don't start putting some more money into our paving, our streets will look the way they, with curbs and gutters looking horrible in some places, and then falling behind even further on our paving projects.
The license tax would give us 1 million over 5 years.
Yeah, it's about 200,000 a year. And we are, if Jay wants to comment on that, we are receiving the max that we can receive, right?
Correct. Not much more to say. We did a study within, the county engineer, we are receiving as much, the max that we can receive.
I had heard on the news or read something maybe a week or so ago, the state may be considering a $5 bump, of making a $5 bump available. That would get us an extra $50,000 a year. That doesn't begin to scratch the surface of the problem. It just doesn't. You'll recall the reason for this exercise was to help illustrate the need for new revenue and to help us put in perspective how much new revenue we should A, ask the voters for, and B, talk about trying to commit toward repaving. When we sat down last week and Rick and Eddie and Bob went over this information with me, here's kind of what we came up with. This list is not, the first street on page 1 is not the worst street in the city. These were grouped together by area, not by first street is the worst, second street's the next worst, so on and so forth. If we do not get any new money, and all we have available to us is the license plate tax money that we currently get, within the next 5 years, we would look to repave the first phase of River Oaks, which is right here in the pink. Everything that you see in pink is the immediate needs here on the list. So we would look to pave only the first phase of River Oaks, which was something like 360. Is that right?
367.
Also, I think Eddie has updated us from time to time on the fact that we have 2 other state-driven paving projects that we're involved in. Kaiser Drive southward to the city limit is going to be repaved next year, next summer. And our match for that project is estimated to be 70-some thousand. The next year, so this would be 18, they're looking to repave 79 north of Kaiser up to and over Oberlin. Our match for that's going to be about 360, 377.
And
Yeah.
what year is that?
18. So, for the next 5 years, based on our money that we get from the license plate, we can do this, and we can cover our match for that. And that's it. That's it. We're already not paving this year in order to be able to save the money to do this. We've got the match for this that is relatively minor compared to the match for this. We've also got the improvement on the State Route 13 Hopewell Drive intersection, where we're looking to add a turn lane coming on Linville Road heading toward Hopewell. We're gonna have a match cost on that. We're gonna look to try to get OPWC for one of these two, but we're not gonna get it for both. I don't think it can give us that much money that soon together. So we're talking about big chunks of money that's gonna have to come from somewhere. And it's gonna be that license plate tax fund.
But it's nothing,
So that's
it's nothing compared to need.
That's why we wanted to put it in perspective.
People are gonna have to understand that you can go out here and look for roads that haven't been paid for years and years. And if they want them to turn like, another entity, nearby, I would say. I didn't wanna just come out and say, but nor do we want our streets to be in the shape that they're in.
You mean the city up north?
Yeah, the city up north, yeah. I don't know, the people, if you wanna travel the roads, you gotta pay the toll. That's how I feel about it.
So the situation is, we cannot begin to hope to fathom keeping up with our paving needs at our current funding levels. If we were to put a total of $1 million a year to paving in the street, that's taking the $200,000 that we get from the license plate tax, as well as if we put $1 million a year into paving, within 10 years, we'd probably be in pretty good shape. Pretty good shape.
Then we'd have to start over again.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I think I've said before, even when we had more money in capital improvements, we used to dedicate, $500,000 or $600,000 a year for paving every year in the city of Heath. And then now, we, in the last 10 years, it's been from 150 to 200,000 compared. Just depends on how much we get with our license plate tax money. So that has dropped a lot in the years, and then it just makes it tough to catch up or to do a project like we did in Wedgewood, where you can go in there and repair the curbs and the gutters and pave the street all at the same time, which again was a $300,000 project. But that now takes pretty much all the money we have for 2 years. So with this, if we want to try to go and improve Southgate, which is still a very good, well-made subdivision in the city, you can keep the streets up and keep the curbs. Some of the complaints we get are people, can you do something with our curb? Well, no, we can't at this time. And then sometimes we go and try to patch it with asphalt. Well, that doesn't look the greatest, and it's a temporary fix. And it would be nice to have our subdivisions where we could bring them up to par again, the way they were built. Because like I said, those curbs in Southgate overall have been there 50 years. And some of them are still, they're still okay. I mean, it was a well-designed subdivision, it really was. But now the curbs are deteriorating, and it'd just be nice to be able to keep some projects up like that.
Now you look at this list. If we were to get the money for $1 million a year toward paving, and yeah, you're gonna knock that out. We're gonna handle this still. You'd be able to do the curbs and gutters on Claren. You could do Swainford and Cynthia too. You could do not just the curbs and paving in Southgate. You could do on the other side of 79 here, where there are no curbs. I mean, that's $530,000. We could knock that out in a year if we had $1 million to work with. we could start to tackle these streets on the east side of 79 down here, farther south, that are in need of repaving, have been for a while. I mean, if we have the money, the options really open up to us. And when you look at it, here, 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 those are heavy concentrations of where people in the community are living.
Southgate's $2 million.
Greenbrier, what was Greenbrier, Rick? That's
797,000, but I can't fathom as bad as the curbs and gutters are in there that it wouldn't be more. 797.
so within that 5-year window, we might not have enough money to hit all of those ones that I pointed out, but now they get on our radar, and we really prioritize A, need based on their condition, and B, cost, so that we can match them up with similar projects each year. I mean, it opens up a world of options to us where right in the heart of these neighborhoods where a lot of our people live.
So,
But if we don't have that kind of revenue to work with, we don't have a prayer of doing those neighborhoods.
we go to the people and ask them for money. For the needs that we have, what would you say would be the increase in the income tax?
If we wanted to have $1 million a year total put toward paving, if we wanted to hire a couple more police officers, which our department desperately needs, if we wanted to hire another street department employee to help us do a better job of, plowing the snow and clearing the ice off of the roads, especially considering that we may have in the future much more road to deal with. Factor in the money that we're probably going to lose as a result of House Bill 5, which is going to begin to get phased in this year. I think we need $2 million in new revenue a year.
When we go in.
Because think about it, we're not putting anything in the capital improvement fund.
No.
So where's the money gonna come from to replace dump trucks in the street department? Patrol cars in the police department. I mean, we gotta start putting money into that capital improvement fund for us to be able to draw things out of for that.
Jerry, what would you say? They ask him, they went to the voters.
Well, I give you an answer right now. I'm not denying what he's saying
No, I'm
at all.
just
I mean,
saying
I'm
that
sitting here
people
taking
gotta
notes, trying to
understand that-
calculate some stuff for myself. but,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we talked about it. I mean,
The realization is there. I mean, the people, there isn't anybody sitting in this room around this table that thinks that, what are we gonna do? We're gonna crap the money? Huh? Put it in a light form.
We've been trying to do that for 10 years here now.
Yeah. Things were going good when they had all the, back in the 70s. Man, making money hand over fist. Rockwell and Kaiser and the Air Force Station. Look at all the employees around here paying taxes in.
We went back and looked at the streets we used to pave 15 years ago. I mean, it was a huge, long list. Now you look at our list,
Yeah.
and it's a very short list, you know,
If any.
of what we can do
Yeah.
in saving for 2 years. You know, these streets are, you know, they're not totally falling apart, but at the same time, to me, it hasn't been to Heath standards of what our city's been for a long, long time. And then with that now, since our city is getting older finally, with the curbs that are starting to deteriorate, it's making some of our subdivisions look subpar. Because it is our responsibility to maintain the curbs and gutters in our streets. And also maintaining curbs and gutters helps our streets by getting the water off the streets and making sure everything works properly. So, you know, sure, we could live with some of this stuff, but it's not living up to to me, Heath standards, and also keeping our streets where they can last maybe a little bit longer by trying to do curbs and gutters along the pavement as we go.
You know, I was gonna say that we were having all these talks about the streets, and I think my streets are in fairly good condition in Livingston now. Neighborhoods, I think it's built in 91, I didn't realize it was 25 years, I did the math on it, that's 25 years old. But since we've been having these conversations, I was out the mailbox looking down in our, I got a sewer drain, or storm drain right there. And it was made of brick, and there's about 4 or 5 brick that are actually falling in from the street side. I could see the very top and thinking, wow, it's already starting here. And that neighbor's not near as old as Southgate and the other neighborhoods. So. And then the other thing that I was gonna ask, what happened to that sheet that, I don't have mine, but, I think Kim did it for us, that had the percentages of this increase would equal this much in annual additional revenues? I think that's what Doug was asking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do we know what that
Yeah.
number, does anybody have it here?
I didn't bring my copy with me over here.
I don't remember what the percentage.
When we get done with parks and streets, I can go over there and run some more copies off for you.
Well, numbers here said it was 0.5% equal 2 million a year, is that correct? Okay.
If I remember correctly, and this is off the top of my head, so forgive me if it's not right. If I remember correctly, a 0.5% increase without an increase to the credit was about 2.5 mil. A 0.5% increase with a 1/4% increase to the credit was about 2.1 mil.
2.275 is what you told me.
Is that what I said?
2.275.
Okay.
So it sounds like the 0.5% is originally what you proposed a long time ago, and around the table conversation we had, that's probably where it ought to be, and that works into the math that you just threw out here, 2 million a year of additional revenues.
Yeah.
10 million over 5 years would be a lot of paving and a lot of other things could be done.
If you ask for one and don't get it, you weren't gonna get it at 2 either, or vice versa, so they're gonna give you 1%, or 1/4%, they're gonna give you the half.
I would agree.
Right.
I would agree.
And the thing of it is that there has to be a concerted effort on our part to convince the people. And you know,
Well,
how do we
I
do
think
that? Because
it starts by us. It starts by us coming to an agreement on what we want to ask the voters for, how we want to structure the thing, and then we put the ordinance together. And let's do it.
I think we've talked about it about 6 times now.
I know.
I'm all for
I'm all
committing to
for
a
it.
0.5%, I can tell
I
you
am
that.
too.
We could get that behind us probably right now. I don't know.
My only concern is that we word it and structure it in a way that it isn't too broad, because then it just looks like we want you to give us money to do whatever we want. And I think that becomes a negative, because they wanna know, if I'm giving you more money, where am I gonna see my bang for the buck?
Mhm.
And so I think we don't wanna keep adding a bunch of different things to it and make it so broad that they're gonna say, that's just a money for each money grab.
And the thing of it is trying to convince the people that they need to sit down and listen. You know, we gave,
Yeah.
remember we passed out 350 pamphlets to door in
Yeah.
Forest Hills for them to come to meeting. 6 people showed up at the clubhouse, and that just,
In their neighborhood.
yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta email that to the press. I mean, this thing ought to go straight to New York Advocate, and only hope they can print it.
They would.
Why not? At least it's
There
showing
was a
that
good
we're
article
looking at it
in
with
the,
some needs.
there was a good article in, I guess it would have been the Cleveland Plain Dealer. If you go to cleveland.com, I think that's its website. There was a good article in there that talked about how the state government has decided to plow more money into that rainy day fund, while local governments have and are
Drowning.
putting tax increases on the ballot. And I mean, it kind of made the argument that we've been talking about now ever since House Bill 5 was getting kicked around, is how we knew that we were going to need a tax increase because the revenues wasn't there to begin with, let alone taking it away through that legislation. I agree with you that clarity of its use will be beneficial.
Yeah.
We need to balance that with a need to be flexible, because we don't know for sure how much corporate profit tax revenue we're going to lose from one year to the next. And so we need to I think it's important that we outline our goals and what we want to do, like with the fire levy. You know, we put the information out there. With this money, we can get a new rescue truck, we can get 2 new squads, we can do bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
You know, we spelled it out in the literature. Here's what our intended use is for this revenue if we get the fire levy passed. But it wasn't necessarily in the language of the levy that was on the ballot, you know, itself. But, you know, look, we said that's what we're going to do with it. That's what we're going to do with it. So like I said, I worry about handcuffing ourselves in the ballot language so that if we don't have the flexibility to be able to pivot should this need arise or that need arise or this revenue source get taken away too, and you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying is the need for clarity. Also, there's a need for long-term flexibility in the revenues use, because we don't know what the future might hold.
It's just kind of a double-edged sword, because I think that I've been reading one from another locality recently that is so confusing that I think people aren't gonna know whether they wanna vote for it because they don't know what it really is. And I think that, you know, even if we could structure it in a way to say it's all for capital improvements, because we haven't done anything with that, and I think we could easily utilize those funds, and then that covers some of the police vehicles that we need that would have been, that money would have had to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that to me would be clearer than saying I'm going to do this and I might do that. And then again, if I have some extra money, I'm going to go over and, you know, I don't know. I'm just, and I support it, but I just want to be sure we've got a shot at it. I don't know.
Say that, then you lose your chance to pick up uniformed police officers.
Not really, because you were gonna have to come up with that money for the vehicles, and now that money's freed up, and could it be used towards the?
Problem is, we're not putting any money in capital improvements right now. There's
I know, but
nothing.
we're buying police vehicles since we haven't been putting in, I mean, I've been signing off when we're buying police vehicles, so that money had to come from somewhere. I mean, those kinds of things, and I'm not saying that's the be-all, do-all answer, I'm just saying, that's just my concern.
Mhm. When we get done with these 2 committees, let me go over and I'll print off those sheets again that Kim sent me that shows the chart and the breakdown.
No, we beat this dead horse for a while, so.
Okay.
That's it. Ready to move on, Bob?
Hey, well, I wanna thank Eddie and.
Yeah, me too.
Chris and Rick did the computations, and I saw him working very hard on that daily, so.
Yeah.
I know it took a lot of effort.
Before I left for
appreciate that.
vacation, I asked them to have the information ready for me to review when I got back last week, so that we could have it available for this committee. And I thought you guys did a really good job, so
Great job.
appreciate it. And
Hey, what
Bob,
ago,
make sure when Chris gets back, thank him too. I know he had a lot of input in this as well, so.
what ago you mentioned it on Cynthia and Swainford that you was gonna put curbs and Hey,
No.
But they don't have curbs.
No, they don't have curbs.
Okay.
No.
I just want-
And I'm not saying we
Make
put them
sure.
in. I'm saying, what I was saying was we could do Claren with the curbs and we could add those 2 streets too.
As paved.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2 is, I've come and talked about lease program that we have talked about, talked to Chris Street Department. We have really talked about a boom mower and also a bucket truck. Southeastern right now has a boom mower that we could use for multiple areas. Mowing on the other side of guardrails, areas that we just cannot reach at all. It can also use to trim trees on our bike paths, or the park and the street department can use both of this.
Who has it, Bob?
Southeastern down here. They have one right now, but it is on a lease program. I've talked to the mayor. I have the money in my budget this year to make the first payment of the lease payment, which is around $13,000. And then you, as I explained last time, you make the payments for 5 years for the same amount of money of around $13,000 a year, and then after 5 years you own it. And if we're again in a money crunch in some ways, this would be a way that we could maybe start to purchase some equipment without having to lay out $100,000, $150,000.
Let me back up for just a second, Bob, so I want to make sure what you said is not consistent with what I think I heard last week. So, if we do this now, you have the money in your budget to cover the cost for 2016.
Yes.
I thought the annual payments after that
They're
were like at 25,000.
25,000 if you go 5 years. I see that.
Oh, okay.
25,000 for 5 years. But all that would, instead of having to put that money in capital improvements, I have in my rents and leases budget about $25,000 now. So we may only have to increase that $7,000 so I can at least pay for my uniforms. And we increase that through through the budget, operating budget, that we don't have to ask for any new money from council or through capital improvements.
And it's a
We can pay
lease
this
to own
within
deal
my-
on
it's a
this,
lease
so
to
after
own.
we've made those payments, it's ours.
Right.
Do you guys remember last year, we borrowed Granville Township's
Yeah.
boom mower? That's the kind of thing we're looking at. We did borrow it from them. And the street department used the heck out of it.
We didn't want to give it back. They insisted though, I don't know why.
Will they let us use it again?
What's that?
They won't let us use it again?
Well, they're getting ready to, well, I don't know. It's kind of delicate situation to borrow that kind of equipment from someone else and then make sure that you bring it back the way it was,
Is there a company that rents, like construction company rents stuff all the time? Is there a company that would rent one of them, rent it just for a month and just use the heck out of it for a month and just not have the, the monthly cost might be.
Southeastern would probably do that. The problem is what we found when we had it, since in the time frame that we had it, we did all the stuff that we could use it for, but we put off other things because we knew we only had it for a finite period of time. If we had one of our own, we would be able to incorporate it in the regular, every week rotation of what we do. So that rather than not doing this or not doing that, because we've got a crew focused on tree trimming, we could still do this, we could still do that, and later in the week do a little bit of tree trimming. Because we only had it for a short period of time, we tried to knock out as much as we could for its use, but it made us put off doing other things that needed to be done for manpower reasons.
Yeah, then we can keep up with stuff all the time. We can have things look nice all the time and keep the trimming. We need to trim so bad right now, just around bike paths. We went down, if you remember, which you walked one time, from Hopewell to Irvingwick, new path, and we went down there and cut all that back with a boom mower that we got from Granville. But we have a lot of other areas that we have to maintain too. But again, it wouldn't be any new money. It's money that's within my budget. We would just have to increase rents and leases maybe $7,000 a year to be able to do this, and then we would own it after 5 years.
So you're saying that you would have to increase Would you put aside in your budget by
We just have to increase.
The
my
line
rates,
item,
the
when
line
we
item.
approve
Yeah.
the budget for next year,
About
we'd have to look at that
$5,000.
line item and fill more in there.
But I have enough money to pay almost all of it.
And that's 13,000 a year, or is it 25?
13,000 initially, then 25 after that.
The first year.
5.
The first year is 13, and then the next 4 is 25.
Yeah, I think it's
So it's 150,000.
So it's 138,000, is that?
It is, for 5 years, it'd be 25,000, 25 and 13.
138.
If, of course, there's interest included in that.
That's a tractor and a mower. That's what you get for that.
Yeah. But it's like I said, it's
Hey,
within my budget.
Bob, let me back up and if the payment's 13 and then 5 payments of 25,000, there's no interest on that, right? It's a check
It
for
would
13,
be-
it's a check for 25. it's a-
There's 2.7% interest each year on the
It-
25,000.
So it's actually 6 years, not 5.
No, well, half a year.
13,000 down, yeah. I don't know, it just
13,000
says for
down, okay.
5 years at 25,000 a year.
Okay.
I mean, things aren't cheap. You go buy a dump truck now, it's 110, 115,000. It's for, you know, like a truck, 150,000. I mean, things aren't cheap. And this is the way we don't have to lay out the money ourselves.
So what was that interest again?
2.72.
Okay, so that's roughly $700 additional each year for interest.
That ain't bad.
How much is it if we just buy it straight out?
I don't know. 129, 729, 129,000.
So it's 130 if we just plunk cash down.
138.
No.
But the
If
problem
I-
is we don't have the money.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
If we
Yeah,
had,
that's what I'm
if
going
we
at.
just wanted to buy one right now, it'd be 130.
That's what it has right now.
If we spread the payments out for 5 years,
It'd
it's
be about
only
138, it looks like to me. 25, if you take 25.3 times 5, that's 125, 126, 127, add another 13,
Yeah.
it's about 140.
That ain't bad.
No, it's not.
To be able to have only
That's the
5
way you
years
need
of a
to
little
go.
bit of pain.
That's the way it needs
And
to
they're really
be
not
done.
coming up with a whole lot of new money to be able to get something. And then we own it at the end of it. And we can use it a lot.
How long is the warranty? Warranty?
Whatever standard stuff is. I don't know. Off the top of my head.
That thing lasts for another 5 to 10 years after that then?
We have dump trucks and we have other things that last 15, 20 years. Our bucket truck is 15, 20 years old.
Just wish we had roads that did that now.
Yeah, that would be a good
And
thing.
you need one of those too, the bucket
Eventually.
Well, that's what I asked. I asked them last week. I asked, Bob and Chris. I've been hearing bucket truck for a
Yeah.
number of years, and we haven't done it, and we haven't done it, and we haven't done it.
Bucket
So
truck.
now you're saying boom mower. I said, prioritize. Which one's more
Yeah.
important, boom mower or bucket truck? Chris told me he can definitely use the boom mower more.
Oh, okay.
The bucket truck, when they need it, but they don't use it very frequently. The boom mower, they would use it
Yeah.
frequently.
That's
So
no-
in Chris's mind, the boom mower was a higher priority.
no brainer then.
Like I said,
I mean, you know.
the money's there already, so it's something we can do. We want to import and use, that's what we were thinking. Next item, other items, I don't have anything else. I kept it a little bit shorter because I knew we were gonna talk about the streets a little bit longer, so. Do you have anything else for streets?
Anybody got anything for Bob? Okay, with nothing else to report, we adjourn at 6:14.